The frost wasn't just on the ground, it was in the air, sharp crystals catching the weak dawn light filtering through the high, dusty windows of the auction barn. It crunched under worn leather boots, a brittle counterpoint to the hollow silence. The smell hit first: damp hay, ammonia, dust, and beneath it all, the faint, metallic tang of fear. Not loud panic, but the quiet, resigned kind that settles in bones. Wind whistled through gaps in the ancient siding, carrying the ghostly echo of hundreds of animals who'd passed through, their futures decided in shouted numbers and a slammed gavel. What do you do when the only thing left of someone you loved is a horse they left behind? Maya didn't look at the other figures huddled near the coffee urn, steaming cups clutched like shields. She kept to the shadows near the long row of temporary pens, her gaze skimming over the restless shapes within. She wasn't here to buy, not really. She was here because the silence in her own barn, once filled with easy laughter and the warm, earthy scent of her Appaloosa mare, Sunny, had become a physical weight. 3 months. The calendar said it. The empty stall screamed it. 3 months since the sudden, brutal silence after the vet's quiet, terrible words. Colic, too far gone. Coming here felt like pressing on a bruise, a morbid curiosity to see if the ache could get any sharper. Then she saw the filly. Not in a pen, but tethered to a ring bolt sunk into the cold concrete floor near the back wall. Alone. Not standing, but half-crouched, trembling. A raw-boned Mustang, her coat the color of storm clouds and dust, matted and dull. Her ribs stood out like barrel staves beneath the rough hair, but it was the eyes. Huge dark pools reflecting the dim overhead bulb, wide with a terror so deep. It wasn't frantic, but frozen, utterly still. The kind of stillness that comes before shattering. Someone had roughly clipped a crude number onto her ragged winter coat, 47. She flinched violently as a man clanged a metal bucket 2 pens down, her body tensing as if expecting a blow, but her head stayed low, those enormous eyes fixed on some. Horror only she could see on the stained concrete floor. Maya stopped breathing. The raw, flayed-open look in that filly's eyes. It mirrored the hollow space inside her own chest. This wasn't just fear of the auction. This was the aftermath. The stillness after the storm had ripped everything away. Maya's hand shoved deep in her jacket pocket, clenched around a smooth, cold stone she'd absent-mindedly picked up outside, Sunny's favorite kind to nudge around her paddock. Slowly, deliberately, Maya unclenched her fist. She took a step towards the back wall, then another. She kept her body angled slightly away, her gaze soft, unfocused, not staring directly at those terrified eyes. She stopped a good 10 feet away, leaning her shoulder against a rough wooden support beam. The filly didn't look up. Her breath came in short, sharp puffs, visible in the frigid air, misting around her muzzle. Her ears, one with a ragged notch at the tip, lay flat back against her skull. Every muscle was wire-tight, minutes stretched, measured only by the filly's. Shaky breaths, and the distant, muffled sounds of the auction preparing to start. Maya stayed still. She focused on her own breathing, slow and deep, letting it become a quiet rhythm in the chilly gloom. She didn't speak, didn't move, just existed. A quiet, non-threatening presence in the filly's peripheral nightmare. She noticed the filly's near foreleg had an old, thick scar running diagonally across the cannon bone, long healed but stark against the sparse hair. A fly buzzed lazily near the filly's shoulder. Her skin twitched violently, a ripple of panic, beneath the dull coat. Maya shifted her weight, just enough to create a soft scrape of her boot sole on the concrete. The filly's head snapped up, those dark eyes locking onto Maya with fresh intensity. Fear, yes, but beneath it a flicker of assessment. The ears twitched, one rotating minutely forward before pinning back again. Maya held her breath. She, slowly, brought her hand out of her pocket. Empty. Palm open, facing down. She lowered it slowly to her side. The filly watched the hand. Her nostrils flared wide, sucking in air, sampling this new scent on the biting wind. Leather, wool, frost, and the lingering faded trace of other horses, of hay, of home. Her head lowered again, but her gaze remained fixed on Maya's hand. The trembling in her legs seemed to lessen, just a fraction. The crushing stillness eased, replaced by a wary, hyper-alert tension. Maya didn't push. She stayed leaning against the beam, a statue radiating quiet. She watched a patch of weak sunlight crawl slowly across the filthy floor towards the filly's hooves. The auctioneer's voice crackled to life over a distant loudspeaker, a distorted, cheerful drone that felt obscene in this corner of despair. The filly flinched again, a small, sharp intake of breath. Then, something infinitesimal. The filly's near ear, the notched one, rotated fully forward, just for a second. Pointed directly at Maya. The frozen terror in her eyes softened, just. A shade into something more like profound exhaustion, a desperate, silent question. Maya felt it like a physical tug in her own chest. This broken creature, trembling in the cold shadows, number 47. She wasn't just afraid of the auction, she was lost. Utterly, completely adrift. The same way Maya felt walking into her silent kitchen every morning, Sonny's feed bucket gathering, dust. Maya didn't think. She simply moved. Slowly, achingly slowly. She crouched down, reducing her height, making herself smaller. She kept her open palm resting loosely on her knee. She focused on the patch of sunlight now touching the filly's front hoof. The filly watched her, rigid, but the panic hadn't resurged. Her breath still puffed, rapid clouds in the cold. Minutes bled away. The auction noise swelled, then faded as the first lots moved through the ring. Maya stayed crouched, her muscles protesting, her own grief a dull echo of the filly's visible distress. She didn't look at the filly directly anymore, just let her presence be a quiet anchor in the chaos. She remembered Sonny doing this, just standing quietly near a nervous horse, radiating calm until the fear subsided, a sound, not a snort, not a blow, a soft, almost imperceptible sigh. Maya's gaze flicked up. The filly's head was slightly higher now. Her neck, taut as a bowstring, had relaxed just a fraction. Her eyes, still enormous, held Maya's, not with terror now, but with a deep, searching weariness. And then slowly, with infinite caution, the filly stretched her neck forward, just an inch, then another. Her muzzle, velvety soft, despite the matted hair around it, extended tentatively towards Maya's open hand, resting on her knee. Not touching, not yet. Just hovering, trembling, a breath away, sampling the air between them. The scent of frost, of dust, of leather, of quiet sorrow, and perhaps a fragile, unspoken understanding. Maya didn't move a muscle, didn't dare breathe. The world narrowed to that trembling muzzle suspended inches from her skin, the dark, liquid eye watching her. The ragged puff of warm breath misting the cold air just above her knuckles. The auctioneer's voice boomed. "Lot 46! Who'll start me at 50? The filly flinched, her head jerking back a fraction, eyes wide again, but she didn't retreat fully. Her gaze snapped back to Maya's hand, then to her face, searching. The question was raw, primal. Safe? Maya held her gaze, pouring every ounce of calm she didn't truly feel into her own stillness. She offered nothing but presence. The filly's nostrils flared again, wider this time. She lowered her muzzle once, more, not towards the hand now, but towards the knee of Maya's jeans, stained with mud and hay from chores she couldn't bring herself to do at home. She sniffed, a soft, tentative inhalation. Then, with a gentleness that belied her desperate state, she touched her velvety nose to the denim. Just a brush, a whisper of contact. Warmth bloomed through the fabric, a shocking contrast to the barn's chill. Maya felt it like an electric current straight to her numb heart. The filly held the contact for a heartbeat, 2, her breath warm and damp, her eye half closed. A sigh escaped her, longer, deeper this time. Less fear, more exhaustion, utter vulnerability. The loudspeaker crackled again, closer now. Lot 47, Mustang filly, estimated 2 years old, unhandled. Tough start, folks, but a blank slate. Who'll give me 20? The words slammed into the fragile space between them. The filly's head snapped up, eyes wide with renewed panic, her body tensing to bolt against the tether. Maya reacted without thought. Still crouched, she shifted her weight forward, just slightly, her body a barrier between the filly and the direction of the booming voice. She didn't touch the horse, didn't speak, just moved. The filly's panicked gaze locked onto her. Maya met it, held it. Here, I'm still here. The filly's trembling intensified, but she didn't try to flee. She pressed her body back against the cold wall, seeking its solidity, her eyes never leaving Maya's face. 15? Do I hear 15? Tough crowd for a tough little Mustang. $10? Anyone? Going once? Maya stood up. Her legs protested, stiff and cold. The filly flinched violently at the sudden movement, a small, terrified whinny escaping her. Maya didn't look towards the ring. She kept her eyes on the filly, on those huge, terrified eyes reflecting the harsh barn light. She took a single step backwards, away from the wall, away from the filly. Her own heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the auctioneer's callous chant. She couldn't leave her. Not like this. Not trembling against the wall, waiting for the unknown. The silence in her own barn suddenly felt less, like a weight and more like a screaming emptiness that this raw, broken creature might somehow fill, or simply share. Going twice, last chance for the little Mustang filly. Maya turned, not towards the exit, but towards the chaotic ring area, towards the man holding the gavel. Her boots scraped on the concrete. She took one step, then another, steeling herself against the noise, the smells, the crushing reality of the auction. Behind her, she heard a frantic scrambling, the clatter of unshod hooves on concrete. She didn't look back. She couldn't. The auctioneer raised his gavel, his bored gaze sweeping the sparse crowd. Then, a soft, insistent pressure against the back of her jacket sleeve. Warm breath misted the cold air near her elbow. Maya froze. Slowly, she turned her head. The filly, still tethered but straining against the rope, had followed her the few steps she'd taken. Her neck was stretched out, her nostrils flared, her notched ear pricked desperately forward. She nudged Maya's sleeve again with her velvety muzzle, a silent, trembling plea etched in every line of her thin body. Her eyes, no longer frozen in terror, held a desperate, bewildered hope. Don't leave me here. The filly's muzzle pressed against Maya's sleeve, warm and insistent, a fragile anchor in the roaring chaos of the auction barn. That desperate nudge, trembling with raw need, don't leave me here, slammed into Maya's numb core. The auctioneer's gavel hovered. The bored eyes of the sparse crowd scanned the scrawny Mustang. Maya's throat closed. Her own echoing emptiness, the silent barn back home, the gaping hole where Sonny had been. It wasn't filled. But suddenly, it wasn't alone. It mirrored the desolation radiating from this trembling creature pressing against her arm. 20. Maya heard her own voice say, rough and too loud in the sudden lull. The auctioneer's bored eyes snapped to her. Do I hear 25? Going once? Twice? The gavel cracked. Sold to the lady at the back? Paperwork was a blur of cold fingers and shaky signatures. Payment drained her savings, a reckless plunge she couldn't rationalize. Leading the filly out was an exercise in controlled chaos. The filly, her filly now, flinched at shadows, shied from the clang of a dropped bucket, her eyes rolling white with residual terror. Maya walked slowly, speaking low, meaningless words of calm she didn't feel, the lead rope held loose but ready. The filly didn't pull. She pressed close, her bony shoulder bumping Maya's hip, her breath hot and fast against Maya's jacket, seeking the only point of stability in her shattered world. The name came unbidden, whispered into the frosty air as they stepped outside, into the weak winter sun. Storm. The trailer ride was tense silence punctuated by Storm's frantic scrambling and panicked snorts at every bump. Maya drove slowly, murmuring reassurances that felt hollow in her own ears. Arriving at her small, quiet farm felt like trespassing on sacred, sorrowful ground. The empty paddock. Sonny's vacant stall, still meticulously cleaned, untouched. Maya led Storm past it quickly towards a smaller, isolated paddock near the back. Fresh hay, clean water. Storm stood trembling in the center, head high, nostrils flared, taking in the alien stillness, the scent of a dead horse lingering faintly on the wind. Maya unclipped the lead rope. Storm didn't move, just stood, statue still, radiating wary, exhaustion. Days bled into weeks, a slow dance of cautious proximity. Maya would enter the paddock, move slowly, rake old hay, refill water. Storm would watch from the farthest corner, ears pinned flat, muscles taut, ready to explode. Maya spoke softly, not expecting understanding, just offering the sound of a calm voice. She sat on the frost-hardened ground near the fence, reading a book, radiating stillness. The first time Storm lowered her head to tentatively lip at the fresh hay pile while Maya sat nearby, Maya held her breath. A tiny victory, a fragile thread. Then the strangeness began. Subtle, unsettling things. Maya was humming one afternoon, an old, wordless tune she used to hum while grooming Sonny. Storm, cautiously investigating a pile of hay a few feet away, froze. Her head snapped up. Her ears, usually swiveling nervously, locked forward. Not with fear, but recognition? A deep, trembling sigh escaped her, her body visibly softening for a fleeting second before the usual wariness slammed back down. She retreated to her corner. Another time, Maya found an old, faded blue bandana tucked in the back of the tack room, Sonny's, used to wipe sweat from her neck after rides. Absently, Maya tucked it into her pocket. Later, while scattering hay, in Storm's paddock, the bandana slipped out. Storm, who had been edging closer than usual, froze. Her nostrils flared violently. She took a hesitant step forward, then another. Her head stretched low, sniffing the air near the fallen scrap of cloth. She didn't touch it. She stood over it, breathing deeply, her eyes half closed. Not fear. Something deeper. Longing? Grief? Maya watched, a cold prickle spreading up her spine. Storm lifted her head, looked directly at Maya, and for the first time, there was no wariness in her gaze. Just a profound, unanswerable sadness. Then she turned and walked stiffly back to her corner. The questions gnawed at Maya. Who was Storm before the auction crate? Why did a scrap of Sonny's life resonate so deeply? The filly became an enigma wrapped in matted fur and old scars, her wary trust slowly growing but shadowed by these inexplicable reactions. Maya found herself researching the freeze brand on Storm's neck. BLM, Nevada, a specific herd management, area. Dead ends, names of previous owners. Nothing. The mystery coiled tighter, a silent pressure in Maya's chest, mirroring the grief she still carried but refused to fully face. Storm was healing, slowly. Her ribs vanished beneath a healthier coat. Her eyes lost some of their frozen terror. But these moments, they felt like ghosts brushing against the present. The breaking point came on a bitingly cold morning, weeks later. Maya was mucking out Sunny's old stall, a task she'd avoided for months. The familiar scent of pine shavings and old leather was a physical blow. She found it tucked behind a dusty feed bin, half buried, Sunny's old leather halter. The leather was worn soft, darkened with years of sweat and oil from Sunny's warm neck. Maya picked it up. The weight, the smell, the ingrained memory of buckling it, it was Sunny, solid, real, gone. The dam shattered. Not gentle tears, but a raw, wrenching sob tore from Maya's throat. She crumpled against the stall wall, the halter clutched to her chest, the grief she'd locked away roaring out in uncontrollable waves. She slid down to the cold concrete, shoulders shaking, face buried in the worn leather, lost in the crushing finality of it. Sunny's playful nudge, her warm breath. On Maya's neck, the trusting weight of her head resting on Maya's shoulder, gone, forever gone. The emptiness wasn't just quiet anymore. It was a howling void. Through the blur of tears, Maya sensed movement at the stall door. Storm stood there, not spooked by the violent sounds of grief, not retreating. She stood silently, her head lowered slightly, her dark eyes fixed on Maya. Maya, lost in her storm, barely registered her. The sobs racked her body, each gasp echoing in the empty barn. Then, warmth. A soft pressure against her bent back. Storm had stepped fully into the stall. Slowly, deliberately, she lowered her head. Maya felt the soft velvet of the filly's muzzle press gently, firmly, between her shoulder blades. Not a nudge for attention, not a demand, a steadying pressure, an anchor. Storm stood perfectly still, her warm breath puffing softly against Maya's jacket, her solid presence a wall against the howling emptiness. She didn't move away. She didn't flinch at the ragged sobs. She simply stood, held, offered the silent, immense comfort of her being. Minutes stretched. Maya's violent weeping subsided into shuddering breaths, then into exhausted, hiccuping silence. The raw edges of grief were still there, jagged and painful, but the crushing weight, it had shifted, lessened, because she wasn't alone in the dark stall. Warmth pressed against her back. A quiet, living presence shared the space. Maya leaned back, just slightly, into that solid warmth. Storm didn't move. She exhaled, a long, slow, warm sigh that fogged the cold air near Maya's ear. It was the sound of patience, of wordless understanding, of simply being there until the storm passed. Weeks turned into months. Winter's grip loosened, replaced by the hesitant green of early spring. The transformation wasn't dramatic, but profound in its quietude. Maya's movements lost their brittle edge. She smiled more often. Small, genuine things sparked by. Storm's emerging curiosity, her first tentative nuzzle for a carrot, her playful buck in the paddock under the warming sun. Storm, too, softened. The flinches became rarer. Her ears stayed forward more often, swiveling with interest instead of fear. She greeted Maya at the paddock gate with a soft nicker, her dark eyes holding a calm Maya hadn't seen before. The wary ghost was slowly being replaced by a living, trusting presence. One bright morning, months after the auction crate, Maya decided to try something. Not Sunny's old saddle. That felt too soon. Just a bareback pad. Storm watched her approach. With it, her ears pricked, curious but calm. Maya moved slowly, letting her sniff the pad, talking softly. She laid it gently on Storm's back. No flinch, no panic, just a thoughtful swish of her tail. Gathering her courage, Maya slowly eased herself onto the pad. Storm shifted her weight, adjusted, then stood perfectly still. Maya settled, the warmth of the mare's back solid beneath her, the rhythm of her breathing a steady comfort. She gathered the soft rope halter she used now, clicked her tongue gently. Storm moved, not a startled jump, but a smooth, willing step forward. Then another, a walk, around the perimeter of the sun-drenched paddock. It wasn't riding Sunny. It was something new, tentative, born of shared storms and quiet healing. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the sun on her face, the powerful muscles. Moving beneath her, the easy rhythm of Storm's stride. A sense of peace, deep and unexpected, settled over her. It wasn't forgetting Sunny. It was carrying her differently, loving this new life beside her. After the ride, as Maya brushed Storm down, working the curry comb in slow circles over the mare's now glossy storm cloud coat, her fingers caught on something near the base of Storm's neck, beneath the thick mane. Not the Freeze brand. Something else, almost hidden. She gently parted the coarse hair. A small, crudely braided leather cord was embedded in the fur, tied tight. Attached to it was a tiny, smooth piece of turquoise, worn almost flat. Maya's breath hitched. She'd seen this stone before, in a picture of a woman laughing, her arms thrown around the neck of a younger, less scarred Storm. The woman wore a necklace with a matching stone. The picture had been tucked into the BLM adoption paperwork Maya had finally received weeks ago, identifying Storm's previous adopter, an elderly woman named Eleanor, who had passed away peacefully in her sleep 6 months before the auction. Her family, overwhelmed, had returned Storm to the holding facility. The note attached simply said, "Her name is Storm. She was Eleanor's heart." Maya gently traced the worn turquoise, tied close to Storm's skin, a secret talisman. Storm turned, her head nudging Maya's shoulder softly. Not for a treat, just connection. Maya looked into the mare's deep, calm eyes, no longer frozen with terror but holding the quiet wisdom of shared sorrow and unexpected grace. She understood now. Storm hadn't just recognized Sunny's scent or Eleanor's tune. She recognized the shape of grief. She knew the landscape of loss. She had carried Eleanor through her final days. And now, impossibly, gently, she was carrying Maya. The pieces settled, not with a crash, but with a profound, quiet click. This bond wasn't about replacing what was lost. It was about honoring it. Together. Storm hadn't erased Sunny's memory. She had become the vessel that allowed Maya to finally hold it without breaking. The Mustang filly, rescued from the auction crate's despair, hadn't just found a home. She had become one. A shelter built not from wood and nails, but from shared silences, understood sorrow, and the quiet, persistent strength to face the dawn after the storm. Maya rested her forehead against Storm's warm neck, breathing in the scent of horse and hay and healing. The silence of the farm wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. Filled with the soft munching of hay, the rustle of spring leaves, and the steady, strong heartbeat of the creature who had walked out of the shadows and quietly, bravely, offered to carry the weight. Sometimes the ones who carry you are the ones no one else saw coming. If this story of quiet courage and unexpected healing touched your heart, please show your support. Hit that subscribe button to join our community where real stories mend real hearts. Let us know how Storm carried you through in the comments below. Don't miss tomorrow's journey. Tap the bell icon for notifications. Because here, every day brings a new story waiting to change yours.